In Photoshop, there's a lot of great tools for making selections, either using selection tools in the tools bar or by going up to select and taking a look at any one of the different ways that we can select images and shapes and layers and all the different things. There will come a point, though, where you're going to need to make some fine-tuned selections or maybe do some type of selections that you won't be able to use with the normal tools, and we can do what is called a mask. Now, a mask is a way for you to basically draw on the image with anything, selection tools, typography tools, and brushes, and basically make selections based off of the mask. Now, later on, we'll talk about masks with layers because you can use masks with layers to edit the photo non-destructively, which means we're not making any changes to the photo itself. We're using masks and different types of layers to make changes for us. But let's go ahead and take a look at how we can use masks to make selections. Now, there's two ways to go about this. You can go up to top and hit select and mask, and then this is going to give us a masking dialog box where we can see all kinds of different settings, such as the amount of transparency we're masking, the radius, and then different refinements, smoothing, feathering, contrast, shift, and then how we want to output that. Are we outputting it to a layer mask or a selection or a new layer and what have you? And basically, we can just come in and start selecting. And then whenever we have the selection made, we can go and make it a layer mask, and we'll hit OK, and it saves this out as a layer mask in the layers. So you can see this black and white image here. And we can double click on it and we can go back into that mode where we can make changes and edit it. And the great thing about this is once we make the edits, it doesn't actually affect the image. So we can make changes to the mask and leave the original image intact. And then if we ever need to make changes or delete that mask later on, we can do so. Now, another way, let's go ahead and delete that. Another way that we can do this is that we can go into what is called the quick mask mode. So if we go back to the top and we click on select, we can go edit in quick mask mode, or we can select that down here on the toolbar, edit in quick mask mode, and the shortcut letter Q. Now that's a shortcut you might want to memorize because you can use it often quickly in and out of mask mode. So if I click it once, it doesn't really look like anything has happened, except for the fact that the quick mask has been added to the name at the top, and our layer has turned red. This red color is showing that we are now in mask mode, and we can start making selections or painting or using gradients and all kinds of other different things to edit this image and get some more fine-tuned control. So let me grab my tablet here. I'm going to move some things on my desk. I'm going to pick up my tablet, and I have a Wacom tablet that I use, and so I can go over to my brushes, and I can select a brush. So let's just pick maybe a little harder brush here. Look at the brush size. Okay, that's good. We can change the brush size. I'll leave all these settings the same, and we have black on our foreground and white on our background. Now, if I start painting, you will notice that it paints in red, the same red that is over in the layers. And what's happening is I'm telling Photoshop where I want to create a mask, and when we have this mask, we can use it to make changes to our image or make selections. And this is a really easy way to select in Photoshop. So I can go ahead and paint on here. And the other great thing about the mask is not only can I add to the mask, which is what we're doing with the black foreground and the brush, but we can subtract. So if I go over here, just undo those marks. Okay, we go over here. Let's change the foreground to white. And then now what happens is this acts as a subtraction type thing. So we can actually subtract from the mask. So it's not really that we're painting, it's that we're adding and subtracting to this mask. You can also do a grayscale if you have the foreground set to gray and do a transparent mask, and you will see that the mask reds are actually a little different because we are adding, but since it's grayscale, choosing that value to cause transparency so we could actually see through this mask. But for right now, let's just go ahead and select the black and we'll color in. And the thing about this is that now we have all access to all the brushes that we have in Photoshop, and we can really fine tune this. So if we wanted to, say, zoom in real quick here, I'm using space to move around. I'm using Control or Command plus and minus to zoom in and out. And I can come in here and using my Wacom, I could really get some nice selections here. And if I wanted to erase any of that, I can pick that white. And I can come in and fine tune these selections as much or as little as I want. So let's zoom out, and then once we are done in mask mode and we hit this button, it will create a selection for us. So this is a way to get some really fine-tuned selections using things such as brushes. Let's go back into mask mode, and I will show you once we go back in, it remembers that mask that we can use here. And not only that, but I can select all the different brushes we have. So if I come in and let's go ahead and click on brushes. And now we can even use mask mode with these different types of brushes. So let's try to find one that's a little more abstract here. This one says chalk. So now we have kind of like a chalk looking mask. Oh, we need to set it to black. Switch those colors around. And let me zoom in so you can see this maybe a little better. And now we can actually create a mask with different types of brushes. So the possibilities of selecting with masks really opens up the doorway of what you can do inside of Photoshop. I'm not just limited to the basic selection tools or the magnetic tool or even some of the select tools here at the top. I have the ability to use any type of brush or other tool inside of Photoshop to make selections. And it's always going to be based on that black and white and gray scale for you to make the selections. So for instance, we could also use something like, say, a gradient. If we pick the gradient and we have it on black to white and we drag that across while we're in mask mode, we can create a selection based from the darkest point, which is going to be fully masked out, to 0 and all the grayscales in between. When we exit mask mode, so even though the gradient doesn't look like it has done anything, it has actually allowed us to make a selection based on the value of 0 to 255 or 0 to 100%, which is the black to white, based on the mask here. And it doesn't look like we see anything here. But if I hit the delete key, you can see what happens. I'm going to deselect this mask now. And we have the thickest part or the most visual part of the image on the left-hand side, and we have absolutely transparency on the right-hand side. That's because we had this gradient of black to white in the mask mode, and now it's also given us the ability to dissolve this photo in this fashion. If I go and I choose an image, say from a previous lesson, I'll just pull in this dance image here, and we drag that to the new document and we drop it in here, you can see that it's a different size. So let's just go ahead and center this up. We'll hit Control T or Command T to free transform. We'll scale this up so it covers up the whole document. Maybe move it around a little bit just so it looks good. And let's just because I know the car's on this side, let's flip this. Okay, and then we'll take that other layer and we'll pull it on top. Now we have a more of a blended type photo. So maybe we can move this over a little bit, move this one a little bit, and you can see the way that this mask is working. Now, of course, we don't have we have some imperfections here just because of the way the document is dissolving into one another. But using a mask gives us a lot of control over what we can do as far as selections go. So as you've seen, we can use different brushes and different tools to get these really cool masked effects, and we can also do different things like this where we can dissolve photos one into the other based on things such as using a gradient. So that is a little primer on how to use masking. When we get into the layer section, we will take a little bit more look at how to use masks within layers and how you can edit your photo non-destructively. But hopefully this gives you a quick way of understanding how you can make selections while using quick mask mode inside of Photoshop.